Hello and welcome to Northeast Today live session with me, Deboshri. Today we have with us a very special guest. We have with us Dr. Thoibi Rublaitus. She is the principal of US California-based Corona Norco Adult School and also has a certificate from the University of Cambridge. So without any further delay, let's welcome our guest of the evening, Dr. Thoibi Rublaitus. Hello, ma'am. Welcome to Northeast Today's live session, and we welcome you to our session. And thank you so much for attending. It's a pleasure having you here.
Greetings from California to the northeast of India, to our audience from Manipur, Kuramjari, and to our audience from Assam and from Nagaland. Kinegase Balasena. I am delighted to be here today for this short conversation with Deboshri. Thank you very much, Deboshri, for inviting me to this show.
And ma'am, before we proceed with our question and answer, which will take really long, we actually have made this short video on your journey. Would you like to see that first, and then we can proceed with the questions?
Certainly, I'd be delighted to see that, and thank you for putting that together.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Let's watch the video first.
Born and brought up in Nagaland's capital city, Kohima, Dr. Thoibi Rublaitus worked as a former news anchor at Doordarshan, Northeast Newsweek. Mrs. Rublaitus completed her master's and doctorate and is currently the principal of US-based Corona Norco Adult School. She has also been recently elected as the president of the Association of California School Administrators Adult Education Council. She has a teaching certificate from the University of Cambridge. Dr. Thoibi Rublaitus is a former examiner of the University of Cambridge Local Examinations Syndicate. Thoibi's grit and resilience transformed her into a global citizen. Northeast Today is honored to host Dr. Thoibi Rublaitus and learn all about her journey.
Welcome again, ma'am. And
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to apologize because it must be you must have. It's really early, like we were just talking about it, and it's 5:30 in California, and you had to get up so early for this interview. But it just means a lot to us, and we are delighted to have you here. So, ma'am, tell us about your journey. Where did you grow up? How has the journey been up until now? Everything.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, like I said, and I take this opportunity to share what I've learned with my fellow Northeasterners, just so that I know that there are many people out there who are looking forward to doing things, going abroad or doing things outside of their country, of the country. And as I was growing up myself, I had to do a lot of trial and error to get where I am, and I just want to be a resource for the people out in Manipur and Nagaland and the Northeast, whoever wants some ideas on how to get from point A to point B. So my childhood, as we have discussed with you a little bit, is that I grew up in the Northeast. I was born in Kohima in Marilisa Hills, and my childhood until my 6th grade, I was in Kohima, and my parents worked very hard to send the six siblings. I'm the second one of a sibling of 6 of us, and we went to Little Flower School, and my brother went to Don Bosco School. I should say I'm very fortunate to be born in Kohima. My parents are Manipuri, so we spoke Manipuri at home. But at school, we spoke Nagamese, and I went to a Catholic school, so I learned English. So when I say why I'm very fortunate to be born in the Northeast, especially in Kohima, is because Kohima is such a God-loving, friendly, and group of people who are very creative and so musical and so talented and genuinely good people. And I am fortunate to have been brought up there.
That's wonderful, ma'am. And also tell us, did you do your schooling in Nagaland as well?
Yes, yes. So from my nursery to fifth grade, I went to Kohima, Little Flower School, Kohima.
Okay.
In my childhood, my parents were not very wealthy, so we used to walk all the way from Marilisa Hills to the Kohima Little Flower School. It was all an uphill walk. It was about 2 hours walk every morning, which I will never forget. As a kid, I used to hate the walk, but now, looking back, I am so fortunate. I love walking now because I grew up walking to school every day.
And ma'am, so when did you go to the US? We'll talk more about that later. There must be challenges because you spent half of your life in a country and then in going to other part of the globe and completely different lives and people. So we'll talk about that later. But tell us how you went to the US first.
Okay, so like I said, I grew up in Kohima, and I went for my 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade in Imphal, Little Flower School. And from Imphal, I went to Jindal School, Hisar. The picture that you were showing is a time that I spent in Jindal School, Hisar. There were 2 years in Hisar.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You look really adorable in this picture, Naito. Just
Thank you. Thank you. That was one of my favorite pictures. I used to love dressing up in my friends' shalwar kameez because I grew up in the Northeast. I didn't get to wear shalwar kameez and sari much. So in school, I used every Saturday, Sunday, we used to exchange clothes. And that's one of the pictures where I was wearing an outfit I borrowed from one of the girls sitting there. And these are girls from New Delhi and from Hisar, Haryana, and from all parts of the country at that boarding school. I was there for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Good old man. Yeah, and ma'am, so tell us about after you went to US, were there any challenges in the beginning? Because it must be hard for anybody. It's a life-changing process for anybody and everybody. So were there any challenges that you faced initially?
Thank you. Thank you for reminding that question. You asked me, how did I get to the United States? So I was very lucky to have married an American guy. When after I finished my college in New Delhi, right after Jindal School, I went to Delhi University. And in Delhi University, I did political science honors, but I ended up teaching English as a second language in New Delhi. And I worked for the British Council for about a year and a half, 2 years. And around that time is when I met my husband. It's very ironical that I was working for a British company, for the British Council, and I met an American guy, and that's how I got married to John. And John's last name is what I took, Rublaitis. So John Rublaitis is whom I met in 2003-04 in New Delhi, and we actually met through Match.com. And that same year in December, I moved. We got married in April, and we moved to the United States in 2004 December.
All right. And when did you start working at the Corona Norco School, which you are the current principal of?
Yes. So you earlier asked how was it getting to the United States. So I was fortunate to marry an American man, but coming to a new country and starting a life altogether was not easy. It was very, very difficult. In the beginning, the first 2-3 years, I couldn't get a job in my field, even if I had a master's in English literature and a teaching certificate from Cambridge. And I had worked at the British Council and as an English language teacher for at least 2 years. When I moved to the United States, I did not know how to go about getting a job in my field of teaching. So the first 2 or 3 years, I worked odd jobs, very odd jobs, and one of them being a barista at Starbucks, and then working as a consignment agent's, you know, helper or assistant at a local company where I barely got the minimum wages, for the first 2-3 years. So coming to a new country, it was challenging, despite the fact that I lived in London for about 4 or 5 months, and I also traveled to Australia when I moved to the United States. Culture shock was something that was really, really stressful. So I went through culture shock the first 2 years, despite getting married to an American man. Moving to a new country has a lot of challenges, and especially if the culture is so different. Just going to the store, for example, So in India, when you go to a store, you don't go and pick out things. Nowadays, I think maybe in the supermarkets you do that. But when you go to a store, you just ask the store owner what you want, and they just pull it out from the shelf and give you, right?
Right.
When I moved to the United States, you go to a store, you never do that. You just go and help yourself. But you have to help yourself, and you've got, toothpaste of 10, 15 different varieties. You don't know which one to pick, right? And
Right.
I also did not know that in India, when you buy something, it's like you just pay the MRP. How much is it? And they tell you the price, and that's it. But in the US, when you go to shop, you have to realize that you have to look at the price of the product and also calculate the taxes of the product in your mind before you can pay for it, or before you have to know how much money will be left after you have paid for it. So those are very little things, but that's culture shock itself, right? The road, for example, you drive on the other side of the road. You also have to worry about everywhere in India, you see people everywhere. But in the US, you are driving for hours without seeing anybody. But then later in my life, I realized, there are no people here, but there are many vehicles. Everybody drives a car. So if you want to find a busy place, you look for the one that has more cars around. So those are some things, those are challenges as a person coming from a different country to the US or to a Western country, having to reset your mind to understand the difference and how things work. So those were some challenges. You then asked me, how did I get to work at Corona Norco Adult School, right? So,
No, ma'am. So before that, please tell us, would go to Corona Norco as well. So, and like you were saying, in Indian roads, we see everybody is walking, when we even see cows and other animals. But, when is there any moment that you remember, like just after you went to the US, that was really memorable, or when you thought, oh my God, I can't do this, I got to go back to my country, like that?
Yes, I had many of those moments in the beginning. I felt like leaving everything, leaving my husband and going back to India,
Yeah.
So I remember my first few days, or first few months in the US. I moved here, coming here thinking I'm going to the US, and I was really happy and everything. But then I get here and I had nothing to do. I didn't know, just going from point A to point B, nobody walked. Everybody needed a car. I did not have a car. So I then had to tell my husband that I don't have a car. I don't have friends. I don't have family here. You go to work every day and I'm home alone doing nothing, waiting for you to come back. So he started taking me to his office to get me busy. And of course, I don't have a job at his office, but I was just helping him doing things, and just helping the other people at his office. That was the first. And then this is where I have to share with you a very funny story.
Yeah, please.
Just to get my driver's license in the United States, it took me 6 times to pass the test.
God.
The written test I passed immediately, but the practical test, it took me 6 times to go to get my practical. First of all, we drive on the other side of the road, right? That was a big challenge for me, just to that. And especially, I could drive okay when nobody's watching me, but during my driver's license test, the examiner is sitting right next to me, and he says, turn left, and then turn left again, and turn left again. And here, instead of going on the left, I went into the right side of the road by mistake. So that's one. And then in the US, stop sign means stop sign. When there is a stop sign, you have to wait at least a minimum of 6 to 8 seconds. You
Right.
cannot just go, right? So the first time I went for my driver's test, I failed just because right as we drove out of the the transportation office, there was a stop sign. I did not stop long enough because in India you don't stop if there's nobody
You
coming,
don't.
even if there is a
Mm.
stop sign.
Right.
So I just drove, slow down, and then I drove. So immediately the person's like, "Turn around, you failed. Let's go back." Or when you park at the uphill or downhill, you have
Mhm.
to park in such a way that you park and turn your wheel towards the curb, so that if the car moves, then it just doesn't go any further. Now, things like that in India, I don't know doing that because I grew up I learned to drive in New Delhi, and in New Delhi, you
Oh,
didn't have to do that, right? So
right.
it took me 6 times to pass the test. In the beginning, I'm like the first time, second time, I was fine. By the time I was like third or fourth, still failed because I didn't fail much in my life. And then just for driving test, I failed 6 times. So I was beginning to feel
Wow.
really disappointed.
At
That was one of
least you didn't give up.
yeah, no,
That's
I
really
didn't
nice.
give up. I didn't give up. That's for sure.
No, so really happy to know you finally got it. And then you went on to like from helping your husband in his office to becoming the principal of this public school in California that we know. So, which is Corona Norco Adult School. So, tell us about that a bit.
Okay, so first, when I arrived in the United States, I lived for 2 years in South Carolina. And South
Okay.
Carolina has a very white culture, right? So you talk about racism. Yes, there is racism in the United States, and it was stronger in South Carolina. So when we lived there, we like I said, I did not know how to get a job as a teacher, even if I had a teaching experience in the United States. So I ended up working all kinds of odd jobs. Then we moved to California in 2007 when my husband got a job in California. Then I was much more fortunate because in California, it is more of a diverse culture. So I soon started getting used to just driving around on my own. So my husband went away to work, and not by now I had a car. He bought me a car, and so I drive all over all my own. I started. Unfortunately, those days, internet came into being. So right, I was just searching for jobs on my own, and through the internet, by just hours and hours of sitting and researching, is how I got to know that I can convert my credentials from Cambridge and the credentials from my master's degree from India into a United States equivalent, right? So first of
Right.
all, when you move from a different country to the United States, everybody should first realize that if you're going from college for education, it's much easier. From if you come from India and go to educate in any Western countries, your transcripts and your educational qualifications and everything is already being accepted by that education system in the United States or the foreign country, right? However,
Right.
people like me who already finished my education in India and then moved to the United States, I have to start from scratch. And to start from scratch, you have to know that even if you have a high school have a certificate in teaching or a master's degree, you will have to convert that into American equivalency. So that's called the credential evaluation. You will have to send your credentials to um, a evaluating agency that has been accredited by the government as well as the employers to convert what you have into American standards, right? So
Right.
through this, by researching on my own, I figured out that if I sent my documents to this company called International Educational Evaluation Agency, then I could get everything evaluated. Then Americans can accept my degree from India, okay? And that took me forever. It was just through sheer luck that I kept researching and researching, and I got that. So, and then the other thing is we are very possessive of our what you call that, our credentials, like my diploma or my degree from the university. And I don't want to send my original diploma and my certificate to anybody because I'm afraid it will be lost. So I kept holding myself from sending it. But you have to send the true original document. Not, they will not accept copy. So first I sent them my copy. They said, this is not acceptable. You will have to send it, the original. And I'm like so afraid. But there was nothing to fear looking back, because you have to send everything through the postal agency, where you pay extra to track the first class, so that you can track wherever your documents are going. And when it arrives to them, I get a notification that it's been accepted and handled at that office. And the day they send it, I get a notification that says it's being sent, it's on the way. And the day I get it, I can track wherever my document is. Of course, now that it's done everywhere, even in India, when you buy something from Amazon, you know where your products are on the way. Right. But at that time, this was in 2007, I did not know that that could happen. And so I was very fearful of sending my documentation. But once I did that, and I got all my credentials from India evaluated, and generally most Indian certificates are accepted, right? So I did my master's degree through correspondence from Himachal University, but that was accepted. And once that was accepted, I could get a job here as a teacher. First of all, as a teacher, they would not give me a full-time job because my credentials I had to now get an American credential, right? So they would give me a preliminary teaching credential, but I could continue to work with the preliminary. And it took me 3 years to clear my credential. To clear my credential means you do all kinds of courses in American education system to become a full-fledged teacher in the United States. So that's how it took me 3 to 5 years before I could really get an assignment that I was truly educated for. So that was one of the questions you said. Well, how did you become a teacher, a principal at adult school? So it took me 10 years to get a full-time job. I was a part-time teacher for at least 8 years.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's a long time. And ma'am, speaking about Corona Norco Adult School, we actually have a video of your school, and I'd like to request my technical team to show the video, and I'd like for you to see it as well.
Thank you.
And ma'am, now that you're the principal of Corona Norco Adult School, like, do you teach as well?
No. So like you said, for the first 8 years, I taught part-time at Corona Norco Adult School and part-time at Riverside Community College, and also at California State University, Fullerton. So as a part-time English language teacher, I couldn't get a full-time job anywhere. And also because I came to California at a time when the economy was tanking, right? Because of a crisis of the housing crisis in 2008, when the whole economy around the world, the economy tanked. So because I started working in California around that time, getting a full-time job was very, very difficult, despite the fact that I was finally able to convert my credential into American standards and also to clear my teaching credential. So for 8 years, I taught at least at 3 different places: at Moreno Valley College, just to give you a little background of how I'm talking about all these
Yeah, sure.
colleges and schools' name. My school's name is Corona Norco Adult School. Corona and Norco are two different cities. Corona is the name of a city, and Norco is another name of a city. And fortunately or unfortunately, it also happens to be the name of coronavirus, right? But coronavirus came a lot later. The word corona basically means crown, right? And so this city that I live in is a city that has has circles. The downtown is built in circles where they used to have car races in the 1960s
Okay.
and the 70s. And so
That's
that's
really
why they call the city Corona. And then the neighboring city is Norco. Again, Norco is the name of a drug as well, but it's a city, it's a horse town city. So in the United States, all the state of California is divided into different regions, right? There are, I think if I'm not mistaken, 71 different regions, and they are called counties. And within the counties are different cities. And within the cities are because the people pay taxes, the city is divided into different regions and different cities, and then some cities put together their taxes to provide schooling, public schools or public education, and they are demarcated accordingly, right? So I live in this county called Riverside, and within the Riverside County are many cities. And of the many cities, the city of Corona and Norco have combined together their resources to build the schooling for the residents of the city. So I'm a public servant now. I'm a public school employee, and so within those cities, that's how I get to be working for the district of Corona Norco. Okay. And before I got a full-time job as a principal, I had no option but to go to different cities and do different jobs to make enough money, right? And so I used to work for Moreno Valley. That's another neighboring city. And there's a college there. So I used to work for the Moreno Valley College as an adjunct professor, and Riverside City College as an adjunct professor. And at night, I used to work at Corona Norco Adult School as the coordinator and English language teacher. So my profession is teaching English as a language. So to get a position, to have a full position, to earn enough money for a living, it wasn't easy. So I had to go to 3 different cities. So at one point in time, I used to have 4 jobs at the same time, right?
Oh my God.
This will come to the story of later how you wanted me to talk about grit a little bit. This is where I'm going to share about my grit. It's not easy to get where I got here today as the principal of adult school. For 8 years, I worked part-time jobs and 3 or 4 different jobs. But they're all teaching us English as a language because that's where I have my certificate from Cambridge. That's where I am. That's my career. That's my choice of profession, right? And so going back to your question, remind me your question again.
No, ma'am. I was asking you about the Corona Norco School. When you set it up, how did you where you teach? Are you teaching now there?
Oh, okay. You asked me the question. Am I still teaching? So no, I'm not teaching anymore. I can't teach as an administrator. You can't teach anymore because my responsibilities are a lot bigger now. I ran a whole school, and the video that you showed is all the things that my school does right now. The school provides English as a second language to the parents who come from other countries. My school also provides technical trainings for all the adults in the community who wants to improve their living and their career, find a career in something different. So people like me who moved from another country, maybe I had a career in India, but I want to start a new career here, then my school helps people like those to get a new career in construction or welding or nursing. That's why you saw in the video some of those people doing welding, a welding teacher teaching welding. And so the kind of school that I run is for the parents in the school district, all the people who come from different countries to get themselves integrated into the new culture in California.
Okay, that's so amazing, ma'am. And for our next question, coming to more about, I I'm guessing this is from Corona Norco as well. We have a photo of yours. Like, could you tell us about what is happening? Okay. Yeah, ma'am. Could you tell us about this photo?
Oh, okay. This has nothing to do with schooling. This is my family. Uh, this one is actually, in some sense, is a sad but sweet picture. In 2016, my father passed away. I am where I am because of my parents. My parents put in a lot in our education as kids, and so my when my that year 2016 is also a very crucial year for me, because that's the year that I became the assistant principal of the school. But I was supposed to go for my assistant principal interview, but my father passed away a few weeks before that. So this is actually my father's Shurat picture. Shurat is in Manipuri culture. When somebody passes away after 15 days, you have a little send-off ceremony for the person who passed away. For my father's death, we all went back to Manipur, because we left Manipur in the 1990s, and we never went back there after that. But when my father passed away, we all decided to go back to Manipur and do the last rites there. The one in front, who is sitting with no hair on the head, is my big brother. He had shaven. And then you see my brother-in-law, who is right in front. That's Nigel Eastwood, when my sister is married to an Englishman. And the one behind, who's standing there, is another one of my brother-in-law. He's Kashmiri. I am at the very back with the gentleman in glasses behind me. That's my husband. And then my niece is right in front of my husband, and my nephews are there. We all went to visit my father's aunt. So this was one of those sad days when we went to visit my aunt, my grand aunt, my father's aunt in Singjamai. And so this is a little bit to tell you about the kind of upbringing we had, that we all ended up marrying different kind of people, but culture is important to us. So when things like that happen, we all get together to celebrate our culture.
Yeah, and you have stick to your roots. Like I remember talking to you, and you kept your name, the name that you were given by your parents. You kept that even after going to the US. Like, a lot of people changed their names, but you didn't. So that says a lot about you as well, and
Thank
which
you.
is wonderful. And ma'am, actually, I was talking about some other picture. This was you were with your students in Corona Norco, and I was actually asking you about the other photo. Like, is this from a graduation ceremony, ma'am?
Yes, this is a more recent picture of mine. I finished my doctorate in educational leadership during the pandemic. So June this year is when I got to walk for my graduation. This picture that you have on the screen was on my graduation. I have the yellow sash because I was a honors student with Phi Kappa Phi, and that's the university's president who is teasing me and talking to me and congratulating me that you have managed to get this even despite the pandemic. I have a mask in my hand. And so the year I finished, we could not have a graduation ceremony, as you all know, because of the pandemic. But they had our ceremony this year in June. And so the lady on the next to me is my classmate, and the other one is the president's wife. So our university had a pandemic type of graduation where they invited us 2 or 3 at a time, and we all got to walk the stage. The stage is behind us. So despite the fact that I had a master's degree from India, I came here, and because I wanted to understand American education system, I went through a second set of master's degree 3 years ago, the same year my father passed away, is when I got my master's in educational leadership from California State University, Fullerton. And that year is when I also became the assistant principal of the school. And 2 years later is when I became the principal of the school. This is my third year as the principal of the school. And as a principal, I am, during being a full-time principal, at night, I went to get my doctorate. And so this is the reward of my hard work.
Wow, congratulations on that, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's really amazing. And could you tell us about this next picture?
Yes, this is a picture that you wanted me to talk about earlier. Yes.
Yes.
In this picture, this picture is very symbolic of what I do as an adult education educator. So this was the year I was the assistant principal of a school. Just think of this. Sometimes I don't know how I even got there. It's all God's wish and the hard work of my parents. And somebody like me who grew up in Kohima, coming and running a school in the United States, in California. All right. And the type of school principal I am is that our school focuses on the young people who did not somehow finish high school. They dropped out of high school. So these people who are standing on both my sides are people who came and finished high school in my school after they dropped out during high school. So high school is difficult for everybody, right? And for some people, most students somehow manage to finish it, but there are some who drop out. What do you do with the ones who dropped out? I don't know. Maybe in India, you have some more new ideas, new things that you do now. But me, when I was growing up, I don't remember there was a lot of support for people who dropped out of high school. So here in the United States, we have this kind of support where we provide free education for people who wanted to come back and finish their high school. On the left of me, you see the young man with the red collar. He was somebody out of high school because his family had problems and he had to help his parents. On the right, the black guy, he was just a difficult kid. He did not enjoy school, so he never finished high school. So he came back to my school and we helped him finish his high school. Now both of them and the rest every day. That year we had about 180 people who graduated high school. And so the young man on my right, the black guy, is now in the U.S. Army. He was able to get.
Wow, how cool is that? That's really amazing.
So that's the kind of work I do now. Is I'm not a principal of regular school, but I'm a principal of a school that helps people who did not finish somehow. And then for all the parents from other countries who have their kids in the school, but they don't understand the American culture, American school system, we provide support for them and give them English education and cultural support and civic support. And then, earlier you saw in the video that we provide classes for people who want to get a change in their career, like welding and construction and business office, etc.
And you are like changing lives there. That's some really good work and inspiring work that you're doing. And also, ma'am, since you're from the Northeast, I would like to ask you this. There are a lot of students, we see young people between the age of, 18 to 25, they go abroad to study or in search of work. So since you have been there for such a long time, you're leading a very successful career. So what would be your advice to such people? What should they be prepared for?
Okay, since I am a principal of the adult school, I have to tell you that the United States government, the federal as well as the state governments provide grants. Okay, the federal grant is called the Workforce Investments and Opportunities Act. Okay, these are funds that the federal government provides to every state, and the states should provide something like what I do, a school for people who come from another country to integrate into the new culture, right? So if there are any young people here who are interested in already have the opportunity to go and live in the United States and looking for jobs or looking for opportunities to find a new career, look for an adult school or a community college in the region where you go. These classes are either free or very low cost. and they will help you get skills to be able to integrate into the American workforce. States also
Okay.
provide grants and funds for the counties to provide classes like this and to support people coming, immigrants, to get acclimated and to get jobs in the community. So that's one thing. The other thing is for young people wanting to go to the United States or abroad, just do your research. Ask people around, or work. If you, this is what I want to say. If you have a dream, you will get there. Just act on that dream. Okay, it might take 10 years, 15 years, but you. So as a kid growing up in Kohima, I always said, "Oh, it'd be so nice to go to some far-flung countries, right, and just live in a new culture." And that was a dream I had. It took me 10, 15 years to get there, but the dream comes true if you have a dream and start working towards that dream. But there's the thing: you cannot just dream and expect somebody to just come and give it to you. You will have to do your research. The world is open now. There's the internet. You search for anything, you will find it. You'll have to continue searching till you get where you went. There are a lot of ways to get from one point A to point B without spending a lot of money. We all think, oh, we don't have money to go to the US, or I don't have money to get out of here from Kohima, or I don't have money to get out of Nagaland. But if you have a dream and you have to work hard towards it sometimes, you will get there. Just find your ways. There are agencies that provide scholarships. There are places that will send you to, when I was working at the British Council, I remember there used to be these companies who used to come and recruit students. And if you're a good student, hardworking student, they're willing to pay for you to go abroad, right? Maybe not the complete amount, but you will get some funding from them, and you can supplement with loans. You know that banks are providing education loans a lot. So if education pays, you have more education, you get better job, right? Like I said, when I had a master's degree, I had a teaching job, right? But I had a second master's degree. The year I got my master's, I became an administrator, right? As an administrator, you get paid more. Now, the higher your education, the higher pay you get. So just chase that dream that you have, and you will get there, because sometimes it will take much longer, but you have a dream, you will be able to make it.
And Aman, speaking about education, the Indian educational system, it puts a lot of emphasis on grades, getting the best marks, excelling in schools to be successful, and see that as a factor to be successful in life. So, what's your stand on that?
Yes, that's a very good question. So, in India, good grade is very important, right? And me growing up too, I was a topper all my life till sixth grade. In sixth, my parents moved to Manipur, and in Manipur, I had to learn Manipuri, and I took me a long time to really be able to do my Manipuri well enough, because I had to start from scratch, and so I did not do very well in my time in Manipur. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, I did not do very well because I almost failed. So I got a second division instead, and I was so ashamed of myself. But that failure did not matter that much. The grade did not matter. What matters is critical thinking. It's the thought of solving problems, using the failure as a stepping stone to success, right? If you fail once, or if you didn't do well, or if you didn't get good grades, it doesn't matter. If you have a good way of thinking, you think critically to solve problems, to be able to use what you learn in applying to things that you have to do. Having a lot of rote learning, remembering or memorizing all the formula is not enough. You have to be able to use all that formula and applying to doing something. So scoring high marks is important, but it's not the most important thing. I know people, our friends, who did not score the highest, but they are now working at Apple Computers in California from India, right? These are two friends of ours whose father was a taxi driver, but these two kids, they worked hard, they were problem solvers, they went to DAV school, and they went to now they were one of the brothers work in Apple computers, and the other brother works in Canada in Microsoft computers. So in the beginning, they used to say, we want to go to the US, but we can never go because we don't have the money. No, but if they worked hard towards it, they worked in a company that would promote them, and they showed proof through their problem solving skills. They get to go where they want to go eventually. It takes time, but they get there. So yes, high scores is not enough. Grades are not enough. Learning to be able to apply what you learn is more important.
And ma'am, is there anything about the Indian education system that you would like to see change?
All right. Yes. Now that I've had this doctorate in educational leadership and have had a chance to work here in the United States for more than 12, 15 years, the education system in India, parents who are able to pay private school fees, they somehow manage to get their kids good education. But I've been away from India for more than 15 years now. So it's not for me to judge. My parents paid a lot for me to get the education that I got. As you can see in my pictures, I went to private schools. But I think that is not the right way to go. Public schools, I remember in India, always had a bad name. But I see this in the United States, that public schools do very well. I'm a public school principal right now. And why do they do well? The public schools in the US, they do well because the public, that is the parents of the kids and the community and the society, they fight for what they need for their kids. They have something called a board, education board, where elected people from the community, 6 or 7 of them, elected people from each region, each section of the community. They have these people who are elected by the people to go and be the board members to tell the school districts and the schools how to run their schools, right? What to do for their kids. So public schools do very well here as compared to India. And it's a shame that in India, public schools are just left as they are. And children who go to public school, some of them, they go to school with no teachers, right? So I think one of the biggest things that India can learn from other countries is to run the public schools better, to have people in the higher levels in the government, not to have a system, a structure that thinks for the long-term benefits of the community and to run those public schools better. Yeah, it's a shame that I don't know, but things might have changed in India now, but that is one thing I think will help a good change for the community and the society.
Yes, ma'am. We're still learning, but there's still a long way to go. So, like you just mentioned, a lot of points about what you'd like to see change. So, what's your vision for quality education? What, according to you, is quality education?
Good training for teachers as well, right? Support for teachers, professional development for teachers who are trained well, not just getting the degree, not that you have a master's degree or a teaching certificate. That's not enough. Teachers who are passionate about showing students what they need to learn, right? And what we have to start thinking about teaching our kids is what they need to be a good worker in the future, right? Because that's how the economy will develop. Providing good teacher development, providing schools that are run by people who are passionate about education for kids, and education system that believes in critical thinking, collaboration, and communication skills. Kids who can communicate their ideas, their thoughts, and encouraging kids to talk about or be able to communicate what they're thinking, and not just you have to memorize this part and you pass this test and you're good. It's not what they memorize and they are able to write in the test, but something where they can solve problems. They are given skills and use the skills to be able to produce something. Be creative, use their creative way. I know Indian kids are so creative and so resourceful, but mostly when they go to school, it's about just answering exactly what the teacher wants them to answer, not about how they're going to use what they learn to create something new or to develop something using what their thoughts and ideas, right? And giving them that nourishment and encouragement to use their minds for innovation, for creative ideas. So those are some things that I would think education system in the U.S., not just in India, but also everywhere in the world. Thinking about the jobs of today are not the same thing that we will have 20 or 30 years later. 20 or 30 years later, are the kind of jobs that are going to be open are different, right? The world has changed. There's so much technology driven, like the AI, using AI.
Driving cars.
The computers does everything, but how to create that computer that will do that thing, or there is a problem, how can I use this robot to solve that problem, right? So those are the kinds of kind of minds that we have to create as educators. And so we have to think beyond just rote learning and getting a degree or a certificate, but more about solving problems and creating new things.
Okay. And ma'am, you have spent such a long time in the US now. Like, how long has it been?
I've been here 15 years, I think.
Almost 15 years. So, do you have any plans of coming back to India, setting up an education infrastructure on an institution here, or applying for any colleges as a
That's
principal?
a very good question. So yes, my husband and I, we've talked often about this. We would like to retire in India, and we would like to set up or bring our skills and knowledge to be able to help or to utilize our resources for developing Indian and the Northeast. Especially, we would like to go back to the Northeast if possible.
Wow, that's really wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, but then we also still talk about right now to be able to. And I just finished my doctorate this year. I just started establishing my school, right? But once that is done, and I'd certainly like to come back to India to share some of what I have learned, and to also learn from Indians, because I know I have friends in India. I have my best friend is a principal in DAV school. When we have brainstorming sessions, we learn so much from each other. I learn a lot from her as well. So exchanging of ideas and exchanging of ways of thinking and being able to take the positive from both sides will make things better for me as well as my friends in India. So yes, I would certainly like to do that someday.
And since, ma'am, we talked earlier about the grit and resilience that you possess. So how did you build all of these qualities, the grit and the resilience, to become the global citizen that you are today?
Wow, that's a tough one to answer. I don't know. Think, how did I learn? How did I build this? Maybe it's my upbringing. My parents, my mother and my father, they really worked hard to give us what we have. But also, I think I'm just fortunate that God has given me this kind of mind and personality that I never give up. Even as a little child, growing up, learning to ride a bicycle, for example, right? I will fall and I will get hurt, but I would get up and do it. And so does everybody, not just me, right? But then if somebody said, oh, you can't do that, I will certainly prove them wrong that I can do it. I'm that kind of person. Also, I think I just grew up with this whole idea of thinking big. Um, I remember when I was in Little Flower School, Kohima, there was a speaker that came and talked to us one time about dare to be different. I was never a kind of child that wanted to be the same like everybody. I want to be different from everybody all the time, right? Think of new ideas. So thinking big, thinking differently, and thinking positive. So by thinking positive, I mean to say that when most people would be, oh, that's not possible, or I'm poor, I cannot handle that, I cannot afford that, I cannot do that, was the first mindset most people would have, right? But I've always told myself, no, I don't have the money right now, but I can accumulate the money and I can be able to do that later, right? So I will start saving up to be able to do that. For example, I went to Cambridge. How did I go to Cambridge to do my teaching credential? I I tutored kids. I tutored kids in New Delhi for at least 3-4 years. And these are kids of the Korean multinational companies. I used to go to their houses and tutor their kids and save enough money to be able to pay for my education in the UK. Yeah. So things like that. So you just have to persevere and not give up. And that's what grit is all about, right? And at a time like the pandemic, most schools shut down and they said, oh, we can't run the school. In my school, what we did is, okay, we cannot run like before. What can we do, right? Well, how can we do the same thing we used to do in a different way? So not giving up, trying to think of new ideas and new ways of doing it, and just working through it is the way to have grit, And I am a big fan. A part of my dissertation, I worked on looking at personalities of teachers and what kind of teachers can retain students longer is what I studied. And part of that, I studied, I'm a big fan of Dr. Angela Duckworth, who talked about grit. And her whole definition of grit is that not grit is not about talent and skills or IQ. It's about not giving up, just continuing to passionately persevere and push yourself to do more, right? So to me, one failure is a stepping stone for another, and we've all heard that before. But just pushing through problems and trying to solve it through one way or the other is the way to go about. And I think that's how I've been fortunate to have this kind of a personality from God.
Wow, wow. That's really inspirational. And I hope any students who are seeing this, like, look, you have set this wonderful example. So they follow this example of yours and take all the advice. And also, ma'am, what advice would you have for any people watching us live or any students wanting to go abroad, wanting to make it big out there?
I I don't know how to say it. I don't think myself as having made something big, but yes, for the viewers and for younger people who would like to do something and go and get their dreams. My simplest and the famous saying that I always go by is, if you have a dream, wake up and take action. And it's not my saying, I've got it from somewhere, but I love it and I live by it. And I would say that to our young people.
And ma'am, any messages for your friends, family back in Manipur or Kohima?
Any friends and family watching, thank you so much for being there in my life. Some way or the other, you have helped me and being part of my life. And so my full gratitude to all of you. And thank you for continuing to be there. And let's be there for each other. If there's anything I can be of support at any time, reach out to me.
Well, ma'am, and so, ma'am, I wouldn't keep you any longer. I know you woke up like you had to get up really early for this interview, and so signing off, ma'am, now. And have a great day. And thank you so much for attending our today's session. It means a lot to us. It was an honor having you, and we'd love to have you again in the future someday, ma'am. And have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Devashri. It's been lovely getting to know you and just working with you on this project.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.